Thank you for your time. We've just listened to one Northern Cape community calling for foreign-owned spaza shops to leave their community. What kind of approach will you be taking as you form this formation, hoping to defend local business?
Good evening to the listeners. I need to first start by saying that we are saying that the illegal, and then illegal being the operative word, the illegal spaza shop owners need to leave the country, and they are illegal in the country in the first instance. They are not even asylum seekers because they entered the country illegally. So that's our stance as a starting point. So please excuse me. That's the starting point. But secondly, we are also saying that it's not sufficient to just regulate and remove the people. What needs to be happening, government needs to start developing programs to support local entrepreneurs in the form of, one, training them on how to manage shops, training in forms of entrepreneurship, but secondly, help them as well in terms of stock and support in establishing businesses and viable shops, and also try to train them as well on compliance as well, because that's another issue that we find, that it does not help to regulate, because you can put regulations as much as you can, but if ever locals are not by themselves also compliant, you're still going to have the same problem. So the starting point is make sure that you develop local entrepreneurs as well in terms of regulations, train them to be compliant, and also not only to focus on spaza shops. By the time you go to spaza shops, it's a bit too late. You need to start from the manufacture of this product to the warehousing of this product. So the whole value chain where these products move needs to be looked at instead of just focusing on spaza shops.
What has been the main reason that has prompted the formation of your organization, and how are you hoping to make a difference?
We formed TITE after we realized that there's been quite an onslaught on township economy. And this onslaught is not just by foreign-owned spaza shop owners, but the onslaught is from various political parties and some white monopoly capital organizations as well. And we realized that township economy needed to be defended because it seems to be taken advantage of by a number of various groups to the detriment of people in the townships. So hence we formed this organization, and it's made up of a number of organizations within the community, including political parties, religious groups, civil organizations, and business associations as well. These are all the people in the townships. These are all the people that are affected one way or the other by the taking advantage of the township economy, either by the white monopoly capital or by foreign-owned or illegal-owned shop owners, and also by politicians themselves as well, who seem to be taking advantage of our ill fortune as well as it's happening now.
You made mention of government intervention and what will need to happen for government's intervention to be effective in ensuring that there is training and there's regulations that are set, and of course a follow-up to ensure that there is compliance. Where do you think the loopholes are?
The starting point, I think government needs to treat township economic development the way that they've treated BBBE. A special fund needs to be established for township economy. We need a township economic development fund as a starting point. The various funding mechanisms that are in place for township economy are not sufficient because most of them are loans, and we know that the people in the township economy space cannot even afford the loans and they are not qualifying for the loans. So we call on government to start a township economic development fund that will fund in the form of grants the development of various entrepreneurs, one, but also to ensure that it establishes programs as well, scalable programs to support township economy. But in addition to that, we need support as well of township entrepreneurs in the form of simplifying regulations. Over-regulating the industry will just raise the cost of doing business for township entrepreneurs, and that will not help. It will just make the goods to be expensive. but also it will mean a lot of businesses will be closed as well. I'll make a typical example. 90% of spaza shops in the townships are already operating illegal because they don't have trading licenses. And they don't have trade licenses because the regulations that apply to trade licenses are so stringent and the processes are so complicated that township entrepreneurs struggle to comply with those.
But this matter perhaps is twofold, or perhaps even more, because on one end are supposedly illegal spaza shops owned by foreign nationals, and on the other end is the landlord who stands to benefit from the illegal spaza shop owner on their land. And I would assume that the resident would not want, the landlord wouldn't want to lose out on rent, and therefore will protect the spaza shop owner. What is your assessment of such a situation?
I don't think we need to be blaming the landlords. Landlords are business people as well, and that's one of the mistakes that we've been doing. We've always been segregating against landlords. Landlords are business people who are using their properties to generate revenue and income. So they need to be made part of the process as well. We need to have programs that support landlords. I'll make a good example. The fact that the landlord has hired out a space to an entrepreneur who happened to be a foreigner to their property to lend, they can do the same as well to a South African entrepreneur. And so the landlord should not be suffering, because whether you're foreigner or you're South African, as long as you pay your rent, the landlord is covered. So the blame is not on the landlord, and the landlord are not to blame at all. They need to be supported as well, and they need to be seen as business people. Because one of the mistakes that we're doing, we're not seeing our landlord as business people. And we need to acknowledge that they are business people.
How are you going to elevate that? How are you going to elevate that discussion? Because the landlord has, in some instances, as SABC News travels and interacts with people on the ground, the landlord has been seen as the enemy, and the landlord is a business person, and rightfully so. How are you as an organization going to ensure that that is something that is also seen in this matter? Because it's all very well to point fingers, but there are also, the matter's twofold.
In terms of TITE's approach, as I said, that TITE is made up of a number of community-based organizations, including business associations. So the starting point, we're encouraging all business associations that are affiliated to TITE to recruit landlords as part of the business associations, so that they are part of the solutions instead of being left out on their own. So that's the starting point. And then we need to work with the landlords and finding solutions. For example, one of the things that we're looking at is standardizing the lease agreements as well. Because the other challenge that we have is the nature of the lease agreements. But not only that, landlords also need legal support as well. As TITE, we are currently busy working on establishing a call center, which will provide a support to the landlords, because some of them want out of these lease agreements with illegal foreigners, but they can't because of the type of lease agreements that they've signed. So the call center is there to provide that legal support and guidance to them as well. So all of that, we hope that will ensure that landlords are seen as part of us, and they work with us in the process.
Very well. Thank you so much for speaking to us this evening, leaving the conversation there as we speak there, and round up the conversation with Sipho Mthembu, who is with the Together in Defense of the Township Economy, joining hands with other key groups to defend local business. We do continue on the other side of this, bringing more news. Stay with us.